and what can they do. So
yeah. Well, and so for those there's a lot of leaders and aspiring leaders listening to the show out there, and probably in some of the industries that you've mentioned, as well as many others. For those leaders and aspiring leaders out there, how do they balance, I guess, the optimism with the realism, and and adopt some of these, even if some of the examples that you've mentioned don't apply directly to them, how do they take this and kind of think in this optimistic way?
Well, two things to just make it simple. One is there should be at the C-level chief innovation officer or a chief technology application officer that is constantly looking for other technologies to partner with, to use, as well as what you build in-house, no matter the category you're in. Every company is a technology company. So, how they manage that and make sure that they're looking at new developments. Also, what I learned in my career in the book is certain technologies evolve over a long period of time. Take voice recognition, for example. The Bakers founded that out of MIT well over 40 years ago. And some of its code is still in Siri and Alexa and other, voice recognition as it gets refined and used in hundreds of applications. The other area corporations should look at, and young CEOs especially, is maybe having a chief ethics officer, or how do you strive to be the moral corporation? I again, don't mean to sound Pollyannish here, but it's how do you make sure you're using technology properly and in the best interest of society? And what kind of guardrails do we need? And I talk about, like many have, that every time the government's tried to sort of intercede and try to manage technology's opportunities, they don't seem to get very far.
Yeah.
And that's why I think corporations need to take that on themselves and build a trust between them and their employees, their customers, their markets, their peers, and set an ethics level and a moral level and a guardrail level that helps apply these technologies in the most thoughtful and safe and ethical way. So those are sort of two areas, but I do dive big into one of the chapters into how you can construct sort of the new C-level. When I started out in business, Greg, it was just a CEO and a CFO, and now it seems that every time there's an issue in business, we slap a C on
it.
Right. From chief marketing to chief operating to chief, you name it. And, but I think we've never quite gone and explored the more important things that are, how do you build and protect the soul of a company to make sure it's a good company? Because I believe that's part of a behavior that needs to be embraced.
Yeah, and to dive a little bit into this, the ethics piece as well. So, definitely agreed that government intervention. I mean, there's been some examples. I think in the EU, like GDPR has kind of charted a nice path and stuff, but many other examples where governments haven't been as successful. And then we've got the platform companies that are kind of self-regulating and sometimes doing a good job, sometimes less than good. And then we've got the brands themselves. So in other words, it's to oversimplify, there's three players here. What do you see the role of the brand in all of, you kind of touched on this, but how much should brand rely on platforms and government, I guess?
Well, I think brands have to realize that their brands are only as strong as their relationship and experience with their constituencies. Yeah. So how you make those stronger in every way, including the use of technology, and how you approach the use of technology is important. Also to understand, like you mentioned, the EU, they've at least gotten a little further at respecting technology, and they're more interested in the monopolization of technology, it seems,
right,
than most others. But the government in the United States seems to be more like, the teacher that wanted to slap you with a ruler on your hands,
Right.
And, that's really incentive building,
Right.
So I think, that brands should try to work with governments. I also remember when I was first starting out in my own business and we worked for a lot of startups, they would get funding from all the famous venture capitalists back then, Kleiner Perkins, Greylock, and Charles River, Mayfield, et cetera. But you know what?